in the North Carolina workshop of one Mr. Cole Rise. You've seen his work, even if you never realized it. He designed the original logo for Instagram and several of the app's early filters, one of which still bears his name. These days, Cole's pursuits are more astronomical. He's spent over 5 years completing this, a near-perfect replica of the camera that gave us some of humanity's most important photos, the Hasselblad 500 EL that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin used on the surface of the moon. Cole's replica is accurate not just down to the serial numbers, not just down to the number of screws holding each access panel in place, but to the threading on those screws. Every modification NASA and Hasselblad made to assure the camera would function in space has been recreated too. The reflective aluminum paint used to protect the camera from the moon's 260-degree daytime temperature. The shutter mechanism that makes the same sound on Earth as it would have on the moon, if there were any air to conduct it.
That is satisfying.
And the lens, which was specially modified to ensure fidelity all the way to the edges of the frame. That was important because this camera wasn't just for posterity. In 1969, before terrain mapping lasers and other modern sensors, hyper-accurate cameras like this were the only way to measure the height of lunar features, like distant mountains. And again, this replicates almost everything about that original. The only way you'd be able to see a more accurate version of this camera would be to literally go to the moon. That's where the original was left in order to save weight for the astronauts' return flight to Earth. Now, why did I travel half the eastern seaboard to see this replica? Because all the engineering that went into the original, all the painstaking work that ensured the astronauts could safely and reliably capture photos from the moon, that took massive effort and expertise on the part of NASA and Hasselblad. And by partnering with Hasselblad, OnePlus is hoping you'll associate its camera with that lunar legacy as well. Does it earn that equivalence? Well, it's about dinner time, so let's head to One Margarita Inn Michael Fisher for the short answer.
Not really.
Look, it's not that these cameras are a disaster or anything. You saw the footage from the road trip in Asheville and Cole's workshop. It can be great. There's even a kind of unintentional parallel with the moon camera. Remember that lens modification that made sure the image at the edge of the frame was accurate? Well, OnePlus used a similar approach on its freeform lens, the lens on the wide-angle camera, to prevent distortion at the edges of the frame, something earlier models did but needed to do through software. The phone's wide-angle camera also offers less color variation and similar resolution to the primary. Pretty good stuff. It's also great to have the option of shooting 4K 120 for those slow-mo opportunities. The few Hasselblad touches that did make it into the software, like the distinctive orange button and the custom leaf shutter sound, I like them too. And focus peaking in Pro mode is a nice bonus, as is the addition of the privacy alert light when the selfie camera is activated. However, that front camera itself is nothing special. Name a common shortfall like poor low-light performance, or poor dynamic range, or a narrow field of view, and they're all here. There's no fun bonus microscope, as there is on this phone's cousin, Oppo's Find X3. There's no enhanced zoom, like you find on Samsung's S21 Ultra. The low-light performance lags behind that phone and Apple's iPhone 12 Pro Max. The device seems more prone to overheating while recording video than most. And the focus assistant, that's supposed to help you take better close-ups, it does that, but in the process it basically breaks the camera's QR code scanner. Something that will drive you crazy when you're trying to call up a restaurant menu mere minutes before the kitchen closes. Now let's stay real, okay? Most smartphone cameras face similar shortfalls. It's true. It's just that OnePlus made such a big deal about this new Hasselblad initiative. And like I anticipated in my licensing editorial earlier this month, this first attempt really doesn't do anything special.